the end of the day, selling is transferring a feeling. If you don't have the feeling, you can't transfer it. If you don't have a good, positive feeling, dude, you're an actor. You have to sell and run your business from a place of positivity. And however you get there, God bless you. Welcome to the Pete Primeau Show. It is episode 190, and we are here with my friend Brent Batterman, and he is the VP of Sales Development and Education for Bedhead Marketing, thriving in a down economy. That is what we are going to be talking about. Just really quickly, if you haven't bought my book, Sell a Million, what are you waiting for? 101 tips for furniture and mattress store owners. If you invest in the book and you have a question on how to implement something, just call me at 419-560-3169. No strings attached, absolute freebie. I will talk you through whatever it is that you need to implement. I'd like to thank Steve and Greg for sponsoring the show. Hey, Patrick. So this goes to Squirrel. Let's do it. Here we go. Patrick Tinney. And we're going to talk about Patrick really quickly as soon as I get through. If you don't belong to the Mattress Industry Network group, thank you, Chris. You always catch me when I'm falling. You need to join this group. It's an absolute free Facebook group. It's run by retailers for the benefit of the entire industry. And if you want to learn how to build, how to market, how to sell merchandise and succeed in the mattress industry, this is the place for you. Hit that QR code, guys, and join the Mattress Industry Network group today and tell them Pete sent you, and I will look forward to seeing you inside the group. Anything else, Chris, or should we get going? Oh, thank you. You caught me again. If you own a mattress store or a furniture store and you want to get serious about mattresses, if you want to increase your door swings, maximize your business performance, and be the store that your community wants to shop at, call Scott Vaughn, go to wingocoaching.win, join us a week from today. I will be in Nashville. I will be at the masterclass. If you have my book and you want me to autograph it, I'll be glad to do that for you. I'm basically flying. Listen to this, guys. I'm flying into Nashville. I'm walking into the hotel, and I'm going to be there for 2 or 3 days. And then I'm walking back onto a plane and I'm leaving. So it's actually the hotel attached to the airport. So cool. And I can't wait. I went to the first masterclass and I had to go to this one because there's a lot of my friends that are going to be there. And I'm always learning. I'm a student just like you. And speaking of students, welcome to the show, Brent Batterman. You are one of my heroes, and I'm going to tell you why. And I know we haven't talked about this. So
first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such an honor. I love the show. You're amazing. And I look forward to our conversation today.
I'll give you the money later, but I have to say this. So we had a get together of some very, very talented retail store owners at the Vegas market. And we were at, what was it? A penthouse at the Trump. It was this huge room. I've only been in a penthouse one time when I worked for United Sleep Products, and this thing was way bigger, way.
I think one room was bigger than my whole house. I mean, it was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. And you know, Brent, you were the last person to speak, and one of the things that I've learned about speaking in my 43 years, 2 big mistakes you don't want. You don't want to speak right after lunch because everyone's tired. And you don't want to be last because if you're last, they're going to leave because they're done. They're spent. And, you know, I forgot how many speakers we had. Did we have 8, 10, 12? We had a lot. There was a lot of speakers. You were the last one.
Yes.
And I'm like, how's he going to do this? And I'm just like mesmerized. I am like, oh my Lord. I mean, I think that we got Jeff and Justin, who kind of ran the show. they got credit for putting the best on last. I don't know that it was purposefully done that way, but Brent, the energy and the passion you bring to our industry is absolutely infectious, and I absolutely love it. And I just wanted to tell you again, you were amazing that day, and you're amazing every time I talk to you. So, I mean, that's so enough.
Well,
All the
Pete,
now all the pressure's on you. So, listen, we're going to talk about thriving in a down economy.
Pete, if you don't mind me saying, I got to say this. It wasn't not just being the last speaker, but there are so many talented, amazing speakers before me. And if you remember, you sat like I remember exactly where I sat, and I think you were about 3 people away from me. About halfway in, I got nervous and I started taking notes because every speaker was so great, and I'm like, wow, I was so nervous because just to be in that room and to speak was an honor. And to be fair, I also want to always give credit to the audience. We had such an amazing group there. I think there was over 55. I apologize if it was 65, somewhere around that number. I feel like I'm close, but they just brought the energy and the excitement to every speaker. And it was such a joy, if you will, to speak there. So it was awesome. And you did an amazing job as well. So thank you.
You know, when as a speaker, you look out in the audience and you see those eyes connecting to you and they are with you, and then you see them making notes, you know that you're in the right room, right? And you're 100% right. Those were some hungry retailers that want to thrive in 2024, and they were all about any little tidbit that they could get. And it was, the energy in the room was palpable. It was amazing. And one of the things that I constantly say is, you know, guys, you can go to webinars and things like that, but you need to get in a room with like people who share your experience and who might even be a little further along on the journey than you. And get in that room and feel that energy and feed off of that energy. It's super important, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah, it was amazing. It was awesome. And I just wanted to give you some kudos again. I know we didn't talk about that prior to the show, but so a lot of times in a down economy, you know, we talk about marketing, and we should talk about marketing. And you work for one of the best marketing companies in the industry. I mean, I love your group. I mean, I love each person in the group, and
So blessed to be a part of it.
collectively there's so much talent there. It's ridiculous. But you know, something that gets overlooked. I mean, obviously you have to pay attention to your marketing. You have to change your marketing. You have to be super sensitive to that. But I think COVID did something to us as an industry. And I think it happened across all industries. And what happened is our sales muscles got soft and they got flabby. And we stopped training, and we stopped doing all the things that we know our sales pros at retail have to do to really be successful. So I really kind of want to deep dive, because I know this is your background. I really want to talk a lot about the RSA, but we can talk about anything you want. But I just have a couple of kind of questions to get us kicked off, and then we can kind of go wherever it takes us. I'm getting this question. Go ahead. You have
I could say, thank you again. I'm excited to talk about this topic. And I think any nugget, if you will, that I share today, I just want to say, I'm going to cite my 2 sources right off the bat. It's from doing it wrong the first time and learning from that, and having great mentors. I was on the retail floor for, I worked in the mattress industry before being a part of the great team of Bedhead Marketing. I worked 21 years. If you count my internship, 10 years I spent on the retail floor. I moved 7 to 8 different times in 7 to 8 different markets. Sometimes it was during a recession. Sometimes sales were tough. Sometimes I was in a market that only had 2 stores. We had no advertisement. And I wanted to share some of those best practices that I had with all our audience today. But with that, I'm going to kick it over to you, Pete.
So this is a question I'm constantly getting from store owners. How do I help my salespeople be productive with their downtime? Because door swings are down. Unless you're like in the top 1% of all mattress and furniture stores, door swings are down, and they're down substantially. So, what can we recommend to store owners to help their sales pros be productive during downtime?
Great question. I believe it's more of instead of saying store managers are store owners, I think it's a team effort. We're all on the same team. We all wear the same jersey. And some of the best practices that I have, I think will go for both the owners and the individuals that work the stores, the managers. And I think there's a little bit of any individual working at any one of those spots. I think it really comes down to 3 things, and we can dive into it. It's 1 is prepare, 2, invest, and 3 is coaching. And what I mean by all 3 of those is plan to prepare, invest in oneself, and find a mentor and be a mentor. And I reached out to some amazing individuals today to help us, and we can continue to add into this conversation. I reached out to 2 CEOs that were CEOs of major mattress companies, Mattress Firm. I reached out to 2 owners of franchises and a president of Bedhead, and I asked them a simple question: what can we do during downtime, and what should we be doing during downtime? And I'm going to share all those things with you today. It was amazing feedback, and what I love about it, it's all simple and can be effective and used today. Nothing. I mean, we probably heard most of these, and think of them as a really good reminder of what we should be doing, because I think sometimes when times are challenging, traffic's down, and we can get in our own head and stop doing those little things that make us successful. And when we do that, it really starts an avalanche, and things can get really out of control. And we'll talk about those today.
Awesome. So stop teasing me. Tell me.
Well, I'm so excited. You can't see it, but I'm like holding myself back because I just want to talk and share, because it means something to me, because I've struggled on the sales floor. I've had success, but I also had a lot of times where, we weren't seeing traffic, and I had to kind of go back to the basics. And the first thing that I think of, Pete, and please interrupt me at any time here, but the best thing I can say is it's all about pregame for me. And it's not even when the store opens up. A lot of times we talk about, getting the store early. I have always found this, when I was the most successful on the sales floor as a leader, as a manager, as a speaker, is what I do before I get to the store or before I get to the event. And it's all about my pregame. And I think there's something to be said when it talks about movement. And what I mean by movement is getting up a little bit early, because he went to bed early. That's what we're in the mattress industry. We always talk about getting to bed early and really getting that pregame going and warm up. Like, movement is contagious, and it doesn't always have to be a running workout. It can be yoga. It can be weights. It can be just getting up, grabbing a cup of coffee, and taking a walk for 30 minutes. But there are so many benefits. I have like 7 best practices here on just what it means and how it can help you just getting up and being active in the morning. It's all about, you can increase your energy level, reduce stress, improves focus, promotes being positive. And we all know those, but those are all things associated with getting your mind right, having the right attitude, because in retail, we rely on being positive. Nobody walks in the retail store and says, man, I really hope this sales associate's kind of grumpy today. I mean, we don't think that. We're like, man, I really hope the person I'm going to work with is positive, has energy, and is willing to help me. And I know that's what makes the mattress industry, in my opinion, so amazing. There's so many great individuals out there that want to do that. And I think by getting up early, and none of this is like earth shattering, we all know this, but it's like, now we're hearing it again. Okay, it's a little it's a little quiet on the sales floor. What can we do? We can put ourselves in the best situation. The best way to do that is get up early in the morning, have a little walk, a run, or whatever it is, and get active and start getting that positive energy flowing through us. I think that is the number one key thing to kick off your day.
I do too. I've done it both ways. And it's much better. The first thing I do after prayers is workout.
100%.
Very first thing every day. And depending on what it is, where I am, if I'm traveling, could be a simple walk. I remember when we were in Vegas, I was going out and you were coming back from your run. And, I did push-ups, sit-ups, and a bunch of stuff in my room. So there's always something that you can do. The idea is just to get the blood moving. And here's the thing. You might go, you know what, Pete, you talk about all this stuff, but I'm not an athlete. This really doesn't apply. No, it applies. You're a human being. It applies. So am I asking you to run 3 to 6 miles like Brent? No, I'm not asking you to do that. Walk for 20 to 30 minutes. Just move. That's all I'm saying. And I've done it both ways. And I have to tell you, there is no comparison. I do not want to go up against Pete when Pete is on his game, when he wakes up on time, he's got a good night's sleep, and he's exercised. But if you give me the Pete that just gets in the car, goes to the store, and just gets there barely in time and is, not ready to sell, I'll kill that. I'll destroy that dude. He's easy competition. But the other guy, I don't even want to see that dude. What say you, brother?
Well, it's so easy to overlook. And, if I was hearing this and when I was prepping this, and I always run things by my wife, she's way cooler and smarter than me. And I was like, she's like, but that's, everyone knows that. I'm like, we all know it, but it's just a good reminder, because I even went to the, kind of did some research, really does just walking help? 100%. Increases circulation, oxygen flow, reduces stress, lowers levels of like stress, enhances the mind, the function of the mind, clears the mind, all things to set you up to be focused, clear-minded, to help that guest coming into your store that needs a great experience and a great night's sleep. And the other thing, Pete, I know this, no one's going to write this down, but it's so true. Also have a good breakfast. My grandma was right. Eat a good breakfast, eat a healthy breakfast, not just coffee on the way to work. Again, I love coffee. I got a little coffee here from Starbucks, but to have a healthy breakfast supports all those things you did on your early morning walk. So I could talk about it all day, but we'll probably go on to the next topic here, but it is so important. And just like you, Pete, I'll never present without running in the morning, because that is my time to clear my head, to get me focused on the day. Every time I present, anytime, like this morning, I got up super early, ran 3.5 miles, wasn't fast, but I feel better. I'm the best version of myself when I do that.
Yep. And it enhances your creativity. So you're more creative after you exercise, because you've got more blood going through your head, and overly simple. What's your next one?
Well, I'll kind of finish it off with this, and it kind of leads into it. Scott Scoggins, he was a mentor of mine, worked at Mattress Firm for years, and he has his own franchise. And I asked him, like, what's one thing that you would recommend for sales associates to do during downtime? And he's like, find ways to stay focused and have a positive attitude. Attitude is number one. And I believe that in all things, and not just on the retail floor, but everything. When we have the right attitude, we just perform at a better level. So I love that. The other item, again, this one right here, I don't know how much time we want to spend, but it's so important. Like, I think I'm kind of embarrassed, but we're talking about pregame, is when you get to the store, just make sure it's clean and dotted. I know all of our stores are, but again, people are like, "Oh, Brent, did my manager tell you to say that?" No, it's so important, because here's the deal. having a clean store is that first impression. And I always talk about that first impression. We have about 88 seconds to really make that first good impression, make a friend before we try to make a sale. And part of that is having that clean store. And I think there's a pride that you have when your store is clean. I think we've all had I've been guilty of this, where I didn't clean the store the night before I left. And I'm like, okay, I'll get to it in the morning. And as soon as you get to the store, there's a customer waiting, you're excited, but you all remember the store is not as clean, or as, some of the pillows are kind of messed up a little bit, price tags are off, and you're like, oh, and it just kind of throws you off a little bit. And for me, it kind of leads to the next topic here is Mattress Firm back in the day, in the 2005, 2006, we had this blue carpet. It was like the most magical blue carpet. And why I say that is because you would vacuum it and leave, and the night before it like captured paper. Like you could see it was so blue. And if there was just any dirt, any paper, it just stuck out. So you constantly had to vacuum. But I used that time to really focus and practice my presentation. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it was just cleaning the store. It was part of my routine. I'd work out, getting the movement going, and vacuum the store, and just, okay, first customer coming in, what's my prep? What does that look like? And just kind of practice my presentation. And I'm not just saying that because we're talking about, I did that because I wasn't the best salesperson on the sales floor when I first started out. I needed to practice. I needed that time to sharpen my skills, to be the best version of myself, and to give the best customer service.
Awesome. What else you got on that list there?
Well, I saw this quote, and I hinted to it just a little bit ago. The will to succeed is important, but what's more important is the will to prepare. And I think practice is important. And I think we could talk 2 hours on this. It is, and we still probably things to cover, because here's what's interesting. I was fortunate and blessed to get an opportunity to play sports in high school and in college. I love sports, and I see so many things that are very comparable from sports, how they prepare, and individuals on the sales floor. And it's interesting. I looked this up, and you probably have heard this, but professional athletes that get paid to do what they do practice 95%. Now, there's some say 98%. So let's just say above 95% of the time, they spend their time practicing. However, they only perform or play the sport 5% of their time. What makes that so unique is on the sales floor, on the retail floor, associates only practice 5% of the time and are actually showing products 95% of the time, which is the exact opposite of professional athletes. And most people have heard that, but I just think about that as like, what would happen to your customer's experience, to your paycheck, to your career, if we just started, instead of practicing only 5% of the time, if we double that to 10% of the time? And I say that's important because I'm not saying, oh man, you have 5 hours of downtime, you should be practicing and doing all that for 5 hours. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, what would happen if we just took 1 hour and we practice our presentation? And there's so many things when it comes to this. And so let me give you kind of a real life scenario outside of mattresses. So this right now, it's fall. Everyone that I know loves fall. I love the fall. The weather's a little bit cooler. We have football, big fan. And it's interesting. Imagine if your favorite team never practiced and they just showed up to the game. They didn't even do any early morning preparation or pregame prep. They just showed up 5 minutes and went onto the field. You'd be so disappointed because they're setting themselves up not to be the best version of themselves, and they probably don't have a good chance of winning. So I'm going to take that one step further. The kicker, Pete, you, if I'm not mistaken, we'll do some fun facts if we have an audience here. You played football, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I did.
What position?
I was a defensive tackle that ran a 4.5 40.
Whoa. Nice. Next time I see you, I think we should see where we're at with the 40 time. Just we can do a
I
live
think
event.
I'm about 7, maybe 7.5 right now.
Yeah. I'd be lucky if I break 8. But so
but I gotta tell you a funny story.
Please.
Talk about what you can do in your downtime. You can race each other in the parking lot for money. And I'm about to get yelled at by a bunch of owners. Actually happened. So I was just fresh out of school, and this guy looks at me and he goes, I bet you I could beat you in a race. Like, we haven't had a customer in 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I said, how much money do you want to lose? He goes, $20. I go, I got $20. All right. Where do you want to race to? And like, from this place to this place, it was like 30 yards. I said, no problem. And dude, I smoked him so bad. I said, it really wasn't fair, Norm. But thank you for the $20. What else? What else would you like to bet me on? One time we bet each other. We had these big colonial high sofas, and one of the backs was like this high. Well, I had a 36-inch vertical jump in college, and I just went right over that thing in my dress clothes. Got another $20. So you guys can race and you can jump over sofas. Sorry, that's it. Please do not send me any crazy emails or texts. Too late. It's happening already, Brent. I'm in trouble. I'm going to let you talk now so that I don't get myself in any more trouble.
No, it's good. I love it. I love the interaction. So, we talk about, in the retail floor, because, you just kind of mentioned that, there are some downtime, especially in mattress sales. We know that. So it's that downtime. What are we doing to prepare for the next customer? So let's take it to sports. Now, Pete, there's a question for you. I had to look it up. What is the percentage of football games at the college level? Because there's more games on the weekend than there are pro. On any given weekend, what is the percentage of college football games that are won with 3 points or less?
Wow. 3 points or less? Maybe 20%.
That is really, really close. The number they give, and obviously it changes and adjusts a little bit, on any typical weekend in years past, 15% of college games are decided on 3 points or less. So I bring that up because if you think about the kicker, I mean, how much pressure do they have? I mean, they're only out there a few times a game, and a lot of times when they come out in the fourth quarter, it's to win the game. And you take back that practicing and practicing, folks' mentality is, imagine if your kicker, they said, I'm not going to practice this week. I'm just going to practice during a game. And you're like, that is crazy. Why would you do that? You're not going to be successful unless you practice. But when I take that earlier back, that said 95% of sales associates practice with their paycheck. And if I could get one thing across, it's like, you are all so talented and gifted. Practice before the customer comes in the store. No one's ever frustrated like, well, I practice too much. I'm too dialed into my skill. It doesn't happen. And if you take that from you'd want your favorite team's kicker to keep practicing, because when the game is on the line, you want them to be the best that they can possibly. I'm saying that same thing to y'all. You are so talented. Be the best version of yourself and practicing. And what's interesting, and there's a lot of data around it, that we never consistently stay at our skill set. And I was on the sales floor for 6-7 years. And I'm like, you know what? I feel pretty good. I can sell a mattress if I need to. And what I found out, and I'm not speaking for the audience, this is just Brent Batterman here. I felt like I feel pretty good, comfortable on the sales floor. And over time, my presentation became not as good, because what I would do is, instead of doing an hour presentation, then I would forget some things. I'd cut some things out. And then all of a sudden I'm doing like a 15-minute presentation, and it just wasn't that great of an experience. And I was lucky to have great mentors like Matt Forbes, and he would coach me after every up. And he's like, that's not, you skip this. What about this? And what about that? And it forced me to give a full presentation 100% of the time and be consistent. And the only way I was able to do that was to practice beforehand. And again, I didn't spend 5 hours. Maybe it was 30 minutes. Maybe it was an hour every day. But I did know this. If I practiced 10, 15, 20% of the time, the person across the street, my competition, I was 4 or 5 times practicing more than they were. And I was going to be that much more dialed in.
So good. So good. I remember my Matt Forbes was Dave Kozakowski.
Yeah.
And he lit me up, and he puts his hands on his hips and he asks me if I'm effing serious, and, asked me what I wanted to do. Do you want to get serious about this? Do you really want to be a salesman? Because if you do, I'm going to spend some time with you, But if you don't, just spare me, because I don't like wasting my time. And huge impact on my life, needless to say.
Pete, I got 2 more items on this. Like again,
Go ahead.
you're gonna have to cut me off because I am so passionate, because I've been that mindset. I'm like, I don't need to practice. It just, again, don't practice on your paycheck. So right now, I don't know if this is a secret or not, but they say traffic's a little down. I don't know if you heard that, Pete. I'll just give you a pause. Did you hear that yet? Traffic may be down a little bit in retail.
It's down a lot for some retailers, and other retailers it's not nearly as down as much. But that is a very, very safe statement to say right now.
Perfect. So unfortunately, that's the case. But so a lot of retailers, and I get it, I'd be the same way if I owned a retail. I'd be like, all right, I need to increase traffic. I need to increase traffic, give opportunities to my team. And let's just say, in a perfect world, all our wishes come true. We're able to increase traffic, have the best traffic we've had in 20 years. That's awesome. What makes me a little nervous is, are we practicing as much as we should and being dialed in? So when we get that extra traffic, maybe we are, maybe we're not. But I always ask a lot of these companies, like, okay, we want all this advertising, we want all this marketing. I'm like, great. What happens if you get your wish and you get all that extra traffic? Is your team ready to rock and roll? Are they dialed in? Are they practiced the skills that pay the bills? Are they ready to go? And some people say yes, and some are like, ooh, we could probably use a little bit. And if you're a mentor, a manager, a vendor rep, the best thing that you can do is spend some time with the individual in the store and practice their presentation. I loved it. I always love going into stores and working with the best and hearing their best presentation and stealing it. There is no copyrights on stealing presentations on the sales floor. If I have a good presentation, it's because 99% of it I stole from you all, and I use it today. As a matter of fact, I used it on Sunday. I did sell a mattress, no big deal, adjustable, all that good stuff. But it's still, I love it. I'm focused on it. And then I always like to do one other extra item outside of sports. And some people are like, well, I don't really like sports, not my thing. Well, most people, I love them, Broadway shows, musicals in New York. And I was like, do they practice? Like, what's that? And I found this out, Pete. The average person that's going to be on a Broadway show practices for 8 weeks, 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week before their first show.
Yep. And it shows
every time.
And the question is, how much are you practicing? And some of the pushback that I get, well, what are you talking about, Pete? What are you talking about, Brent? Are you talking about role playing? Because I'm going to tell you right now, role playing sucks and doesn't work for me. I'm going to tell you something. If you suck, if you've decided that you are incapable of coaching and you're incapable of learning, and you give a half-hearted effort into role playing, it will suck. But if you and your teammate who you're role playing with agree ahead of time, hey, let's be serious. Let's give each other real objections that we've really gotten, and not just make this into a, mocking out the customer session, which sometimes happens. Let's get real about this. Let's do this the right way, and you will get better. The role play is as good as you are willing to make it. So when you treat it like a joke, it's a joke. When you treat it seriously, just like pro football players, they're working on their different techniques that they have to execute. And they do it at half speed and they do it at full speed. That shows you that you don't have to go full speed every time. But in these in these situations where we are, what I did one time is I gave, here you are as the customer, here you are as the salesperson, and I gave them cards. And I gave them like what they were going to say and what they were going to do. And they really just had to execute. But the one didn't know what the other one was doing, Brent. So they had to adapt. And it was very interesting way of trying to give them some kind of a little bit of a track to run on. Because what happens when you do role playing is it becomes a complete free for all. There is no track to run on. Like, for instance, you gave me a great example when we talked the other day. Like, let's just focus on one thing. Let's just focus on our greeting. And we're just going to work on our greeting instead of working on a greeting and then qualifying and then presenting and then overcoming objections. You don't have to do it all at once. You can break it down. You can analyze it and you can have a lot of fun with it. I can tell you want to talk, so I'm going to let you go.
Oh, no. I mean, there's one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time said, you know, he broke it down to drills. And what are those drills? And I'm going to share a secret. And it'll probably, I might kind of going back and forth if I should share this or not. If you're a sales associate, please put it on mute. I don't want you to hear this. If you're a manager, an area manager, district manager, an owner, I want you to hear this. So when you walk into a store and when you start saying, hey, I want to role play, and I used to do this all the time with the most amazing top performers across the country. If I went in and be like, hey, you want to role play? Like, no, then all of a sudden, like, well, I got to clean the back room. It hasn't been cleaned for like 10 years, but I'm going to go clean it because I don't have time to role play. Like, they'd have all these excuses. So I came up with something that would actually change the conversation. And I would say, instead of, do you want to role play? I'd say, hey, I hear you. How do you sell a power base? Like, what's your best practice on Sound Purple? Like, I'm not as good at it because I don't do it every day on the sales floor as you do. It's like, what's your best practice on Sound Purple? Oh, for like 30 minutes later, we'd be role playing, but they just heard it differently. I'm like, well, how do you say this? Well, if a customer says that, or they're really looking for something for back support, how do you say that? Changes the conversation, it changes the tempo, and 99% of the time, sales associates are like, absolutely, because they're so talented and they want to show you the skills that pay the bills. They want to show you their hard work and what they're able to do. And that easy way.
That what you just said was huge. The skills that pay the bills. And, sometimes we forget that this is a profession and there is a skill set. And often when you meet somebody who's at the top of their profession and you see those skills, you can recognize them. But when you're early in your career, you don't even really know what those skills are. And spending time developing those skills is huge. It is huge. And you know what I loved about what you said earlier, just tying this together? If that statistic is true, and I have no reason to believe that it's not true, the 5% practice for salespeople, it might be too high, if anything. But let's just say it's 5%. It's pretty easy to double it to 10%.
100%.
And like, what if we aspired to competitive athlete status? I mean, I remember like it was yesterday. I remember my weekly routine. On Monday, we had a light practice and we had film sessions. And we reviewed our last game quickly. And then we did a preview and a skull session on everything that the other team did. Then on Tuesday, we had another practice. It was a little bit more intense. They were showing us the formations. They were quoting us the tendencies. When they're in this formation, here's the plays they run from this formation. And there was very little contact, a little bit when they started running the plays against us. Wednesday, more of the same. And then on Thursday, they were running the plays at us. We were running our defenses against the plays. And, then on Friday, it was very, very light, no pads, just your helmet and basically running through the same. They're running their plays against us. We're running our defense against them. And we are breaking down every skill. Like, Brent, the first step out of our stance, we practiced it hundreds of times during the week, hundreds of times. And during my career in college, for the 4 years I was there, if I would have told you that I practiced my first step out of my stance 100,000 times, I'm probably way short. Because I did it in my dorm room. I used to hit my hands up against the wall. First step, is my first step perfect? What's wrong with it? What is it too big? Is it, what?
Yep.
So the whole idea of if we practice like a competitive athlete, like when's the last time you shopped a store? All right. And what were they promoting? How do they compete against us? When I bring up our store's name, what do they say about us? If
Yeah.
you don't know that, you're not a professional salesman.
Well, and it even goes beyond. I love that. We should always know what our competition and going out there and seeing and meeting and doing all that. And it also, when you talk about practice, I saw this quote from a writer, and they write business books, and they wrote, "What you don't improve on, you eventually decline in." And I thought about that because over time, I fell in the trap of like, oh, I've done this enough. I don't need to keep resharpening my skills. And maybe not. But here's what it does do every time. I don't care how long you've been doing it. When you take that time to do that, like you were doing, taking that step 100,000 times, it keeps you focused and it keeps you in a positive attitude, because there's a lot of things you can't control. But if you can control your attitude, your prep, and your focus, you are setting yourself up to be successful. You're setting yourself up to be the best version of yourself. And when the customer comes in, I believe we owe them that, because we want that when we go in somewhere else to be helped. And we can do that, and we can control that. And it goes to my next part here, Pete, is really about investing in yourself. And, we all say that, like, what should you do in downtime? Well, read a book. But I think it's more than that. Am I saying, again, do you have to do the whole time read a book? No, but you have a little bit of downtime. Invest in yourself. Does the company benefit? 100%. Does your customers benefit? Yes, but so do you. It's that win-win scenario that we hear so much about in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The more that you invest in yourself, the better version you will get. And here's the other thing. When you're in downtime, I've never heard this, and I've got a chance to interview dozens and dozens of people for promotions, from area manager, district manager, and above. The people that are prepared, no one ever came to the meeting and goes, well, I'm too prepared. I've worked too hard. They don't say that. They're glad they put the time in. Every person, of the CEOs, all the people I text in the mattress industry for years, I said, what's another thing they say? Invest in yourself. Read a book. It will only benefit you. And I love that. And I think, if you're listening out, I'd love to see some of in the chat, like, what are your comments? What are some of your favorite books? I will share mine. But when you invest in yourself, you're setting yourself up for more opportunities. And we're talking about, go ahead.
No, that's mine. Selling Retail When I Was in Furniture by John F. Lawhon, God rest his soul. And that is a great book if you sell furniture. But I agree. At a bare minimum, we should all be reading books. Hey, RJ's got something.
Let's hear it. Let's go to the chat.
Yeah. Had a great conversation with Brent, Ferg, and Bedhead crew on Friday. These guys are legit as it comes. Looking forward to working with them. Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that, RJ. That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, RJ. Always love what anything that you've got to say, because you are one of the few really bright spots in our industry right now, brother. And thank you for showing us the way. And so here you go. Here's a store owner, Brent, who's willing to invest in his business and in every aspect of his business, in his marketing, in his display, in his brand selection, his merchandising, his sales techniques, everything. He wants to do it all. He's not limiting himself to just, I'm going to improve my display. I'm going to improve this one thing. He says, I've never seen a guy who implements the way this guy implements. It's breathtaking.
I love it. It's true. Really enjoyed our conversation with RJ last week. It was great. The two books that I had, and Pete, these have a special place because I know what it's like to not to be able to feel like you had enough money, or we're going to have enough money to pay your rent next month. Being on the retail floor, I wasn't, like I said, I struggled when I first got on the sales floor. And when I put the prep in, I put the time in, I was able to improve. And two books that really helped and meant a lot to me. I don't know if you ever saw this, Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Love this book. It took me 12 months to read it. If you read the book, you know why it took me 12 months to read it. Fantastic. It's a $7.99 investment in you. It's a great, great book. Love this. And the other book that
Can
stood
I
out.
can I just talk about that book?
Please.
It, so some books make you a better salesperson, and some books make you a better salesperson, and they make you a better person, a better human being. This does both. And it's a book that you can get on tape, and the tape is it's like 2 or 3 hours long.
I have it. I can look it up here in a minute if you want me to.
Yeah, but I have it on Audible. I listen to it at least once or twice a year. I reread it. I reread the scrolls. If you have not read that book, it's a must-have book. And if I could find my copy, it's absolutely demolished. I mean, it is just threadbare. It's just beat up. What's your next book?
Well, Pete, when I talk to you, I love having conversations with you. Like, you just give me all these great ideas. One thing I used to do as a district manager, I used to buy these by the case, and I would hand them out, and then I would write a note in the front cover to the person, because you said something very important there. It makes you a better person and a better salesperson. I see them the same. I know that you can work on them at different times and different avenues, but eventually they're the same. People don't buy what's in your store. They buy from you. And this right here is one of those that I think is a huge, it should be in everyone's bookshelf.
I agree. But I would take the word from out. They buy you. They buy you. They're not buying a white rectangle or a black rectangle or a gray rectangle, and they're not even buying a better night's sleep, a happy wake up. They're buying you. They don't believe anything anybody says. So the first thing is they have to buy you. The second thing is they'll buy your recommendation after they buy you. What's your next book, buddy? Yeah, that's a good book.
I read it once a quarter. If you want downtime, Stephen R. Covey, or just the entire Franklin Covey library, they do such a great job there. Amazing individuals. From that, I got a chance to work with him throughout my career. This is a amazing book. Sales, not sales, whatever your profession is, I think you can take away so many items from this. And I don't consider it a book. I consider it a workbook. Like, I read it multiple times, and I pull something different from it or remember it. And I love the workbooks as well to go along with it.
Awesome. You got anything else?
Yeah. Don't practice on your paycheck. Become an expert. Invest in yourself. I think is so important, because when you do that, it creates opportunity. In 2004, 2005, Pete, I don't know if you know this, and we don't have to go into it. It's one of my most challenging times. I mean, I was so broke. I lived with a mattress only on the floor in an apartment. Like, it just was what it was. And to see where I'm at in those times, those struggles, those challenges. And sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it can really, it's tough. I've been there a couple of times. And I look back at the toughest times I've had on the retail floor, even in sports. And those were learning points, and they didn't feel very didn't feel like I was learning, but I stayed focused. I kept trying to keep a positive attitude. And what it allowed me to do later on in my career is I use those all the time as speaking points, because I understand what it's like to work 6 days a week, work until 9, 10 o'clock at night. I get it. But my next point is when you invest in yourself, it creates opportunity. One of the coolest things that some of this stuff got a chance for me to do is my last point during downtime is find a mentor and be a mentor. I think that is so important for everyone's career. If you've been doing this for 5 years, my favorite question I love to hear is like, who are you coaching? Who are you mentoring? If you just started, find a mentor. I would not have my success. And there are so many more people that are more successful than me. I totally understand, but I love what I do. And I could not perform, or I wouldn't be able to speak or present or do anything to the level that I'm at today if I didn't have people that cared about me, that mentored me, that took an interest in me. And all those people of Ken Murphy, Steve Stagner, Corey Lunis, Kristen Gallo, Matt Forbes, Harry Roberts, Stephen Ferguson, Jason Starr, Tara Starr. Like, I could keep going. It took a whole village to get Brent to be successful, but I appreciate that. And so, are you finding someone to mentor? If it's not about me, but I was fortunate enough to win Store Manager of the Year, and it wasn't because one of the things that was being a mentor, and then you go, well, how did that happen? Is because I interviewed for a position, and I did not get the spot as an area manager. And I was able to break some records and fun stuff like that. I don't want to go into that. Don't want to sound like a breaking, but just had a very successful year. And I thought I was going to be area manager. I walk into the interview, I'm feeling all good. And Jody Putnam, huge mentor of mine, amazing individual. He asked me one question. And in 2004, I'll never forget this. He's like, Brent, great success on the sales floor. I'm like, absolutely ready to be an area manager. He's like, who have you mentored? I'm like, oh, whoa, hey, I didn't know that was part of the resume, but at the time I was like, but it made me better. So then what I did is I took his feedback as a gift, and I went and called. I was a store manager in Raleigh, North Carolina, and 714. I forgot the last digits. My team's gonna make fun of me. But I was at the store, and I would call every person that just started. I'd be like, "Hey, come work my store on the weekend. Ask your area manager to come work at my store. I'm by myself on the weekends. I will help train you. I will get you ready, and I'll let you take customers. I promise you." So every new hire would come to my store, and I would take the presentation. I'd take the first customer, and I never did any shortcuts. And the reason I didn't do any shortcuts because I couldn't tell them they need to do this, and then they watch me on the sales floor and do that. I had to be consistent on the sales floor. If you want to be great at retail, be consistent. So what I would do is I would have everyone, I'm like, watch me. I'm going to take the first presentation, take some notes, give me some feedback. We'll coach, and you're going to get the second customer. I know you just started today. It doesn't matter. I'll help you out. Tell the customer you're new. They will help you out. They want to help the person that just started. I promise you that. And what it did was it allowed me to be more consistent on the sales floor because they were watching me. And two, it helped me have a coaching mindset. So I knew that I was going to coach them after you up. I wanted them to succeed. And I want to say 6, 7, 8 people later that I had a chance to influence their career. They're superstars, but I had an opportunity to be a part of their career. It put me in a whole different level of salesmanship, leadership, and I still found mentors, but then I also said, you know what? I have to do both. I have to find people that are looking for a mentor, and I still have to seek being a mentor. And it just elevated my game. And I appreciate all the people that gave me an opportunity to work with them and help me out. And what's interesting, and I never would have thought this until I experienced it, I learned just as much, if not more, from the people that I got a chance to coach and mentor than the people that actually mentored me. It was, I felt like I got way more out of it. So I apologize on that, but it is such a good thing. You have downtime. We have these things called telephones. Call someone, check in on them, see how they're doing, have them figure out how was your last up. Tell me what you did well. Tell me what you could have done better. Tell me what you do different. It's 3 things. Tell me what you did well. Tell me what you do differently, and tell me what you want to continue to do. Like, there's just simple, but coach them, help them become great at what they do and how they can have a career. Because if we can do that, we can help them put in position to buy their first house, help go to college or send someone off to college, get a car, go on a vacation. Like, there's so many things that we can help them, and we can give them a career in an amazing industry, in the mattress industry.
Yeah, I had a guest years ago, John Kolensik. He was a sales trainer for Sealy 30 years ago. And he never realized the impact that he had. And he went to a store, and the sales pro there said, "Hey, I want to thank you, John." And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, "Well, the sales techniques that you taught me, I implemented them, and I was able to buy my daughter a new bike for Christmas. And not only that, we're making more money than we've ever made, and our entire life has changed because of you." And so don't keep it all to yourself. Share as much as you can, and never underestimate someone's ability to pick up another human being and make a difference in their life. So the reason I'm getting a little emotional is I was a sophomore in college. It was the day after the banquet, and I wanted to be an All-American football player. And I thought I played good enough to be an All-American, but I wasn't even all conference. And I was taking a shower. Who walks in? Dan Delfino, 2-time All-American, most valuable player in the conference, this, that, and the other. And he was graduating senior. And, we're just taking a shower. And he goes, Pete. I go, Dan? He goes, I know you're disappointed. He goes, I know you. I played next to you for a whole season. He goes, I'm going to tell you something that I need you to really understand. I said, okay, what? He goes, every trophy that I won last night, I go, yeah. He goes, you're going to win them, and you're going to win more, and you're going to do it your junior year, and you're going to do it your senior year. Mark my words. Changed my life right there. Boom. Done. You never understand the impact you have on somebody. You tell somebody what you see good in them, and it's amazing how they will strive to not disappoint you. So give a dog a good name and help them live up to it. Stephen Ferguson, also known as the Mattress Weirdo.
What's up, Berg?
That starts with trainers asking their trainees those questions about their sales. Teach your new hires how to ask for feedback on day one. Oh, so good. Let them know you want it too. Yes. Yeah. One of the best things you ever shared with me, Brent, was you asked for a salesperson who actually needed coaching to coach you up. Like, what can I do better for you? And you started it off that way, and you changed the whole dynamic. So they were actually, after they kind of coached you up, they were completely opened up and ready to accept coaching.
It's a two-way highway. You just can't coach. You got people coach you, and have everyone involved. And one thing that you said, Pete, that stands out is we are professional sales associates and managers and business owners, franchise owners. You get paid on what you say and how you say it. And I also believe it matters on what we say, not just on the sales floor, but it matters what we say to our team. Your mentors, your coaches, giving words of encouragement goes a long ways. As Pete just gave a great example, I love your example, Pete, is those positive influence. I guess what I'm really saying is we're known more for what we give than probably what we consume. And by giving those compliments and giving our blood, sweat, and tears to helping people grow, I think that is one of the biggest paychecks. And I get a chance to work with Stephen Ferguson, and I usually make fun of him. At this time, I'm going to speak from the heart. What makes Ferguson great? He's talented and all that, and he'll, he sold, a ton of mattresses. Probably never sold a power base before, but that's okay. But what makes Ferguson, the reason why his teams love him is because he's all heart. He's like Rock. You're all heart, Rock. I mean, and lead with your heart and be vulnerable, be real. People, that inspires people. And I think that's what makes Ferguson great. That's what made him a great district manager. All the people that I mentioned earlier, that's what makes him great is they lead with their heart. They care. And sometimes, it can, not everyone's, it works out, but more times than not, you're just remembered for being a leader who cared and helped somebody. And that gets us all back to how do you start your day? Being dialed in, knowing what you want to do, write your goals down, invest in yourself, find a mentor and be a mentor.
Well, unfortunately, the last 10 minutes is 1 minute. Was there something I should have asked you that I didn't?
Probably one of the best advices that I heard from all the people I had a chance to ask came from Steve Stagner, used to be the CEO at Mattress Firm, and his was the 20 ideas what I could do. And it's the best practice. If you're an owner, go in your store. If you're a store manager, just do this. 20 ideas on how I can increase traffic today. 20 ideas on how and just start writing. Do they have to be the best? No, just get to 20. 20 ideas on how to give great customer service. 20 ideas to tell, re-merchandise my store, whatever those are. And it doesn't have, don't try to do like 10 of them a day, but just once a month, figure out 20 ideas that you can do, and then start picking your top 2 or 3 that you can implement that month to increase traffic, increase sales, increase customer service.
Wow. Brent, this went by too fast, brother, but we knew this was going to happen, right?
It's so fun talking to you. I love
when
your
we
show.
get together. It just goes by like so fast.
It does. It was a great topic, and it's probably a topic we don't get a chance to talk enough about. And, you know, at Bedhead Marketing, we have this is what I get a chance to do. I love what I do. I love to talk to your team. If you have any teams out there that you think that I could come in and do a workshop, training, product launch, just talk about sales, talk about mentoring. I love this stuff. Please reach out to me. I'll do my best to give you the best sales experience, or best training experience, I should say.
So LinkedIn, at Brent Batterman at LinkedIn. Where else? How else do they contact you?
That would probably be the absolutely best way.
Okay.
You can also reach me at Brent@bedheadmarketing.com. My email, Brent@bedheadmarketing.com. And we're here to help. We love what we do.
Awesome. Brent, thanks a million. And everybody that watched the show today, go forward and sell 1 million today.
Love.